Welcome in, everyone, to another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be looking at excerpts from Brianna Wiest's How to Heal.pdf.
Yeah.
It's all about personal transformation and healing.
Right.
So I'm really excited to dig into this with you and see what we find.
Yeah, me too.
I think one of the things that really stood out to me right off the bat was this idea that, your first purpose is to heal.
Right.
And that's something that Wiest really emphasizes throughout these excerpts.
Yeah, that is a really powerful statement.
And I'm curious to kind of get your take on that.
Yeah.
Why do you think she sees healing as so fundamental?
Yeah. Well, I think it's because, when we think about all of the things that we want to do in life and all the goals we want to achieve,
right,
it's easy to overlook the fact that we're all carrying around these wounds, both visible and invisible,
You're right.
And those wounds can really impact our thoughts, our behaviors, our relationships.
Incredibly.
And until we address those wounds, we're likely to keep repeating the same patterns and struggling with the same issues.
Right. And it's like we're trying to build a house on a shaky foundation.
Exactly.
If we're not addressing that inner healing first.
Yeah.
Now, Wiest doesn't sugarcoat the process either.
No, not at all.
She really talks about the emotional roller coaster that's involved.
Yep.
She talks about, confronting past hurts, crying for our younger selves, and gradually releasing those burdens. What are your thoughts on this kind of emotional journey?
Well, I think it's important to remember that healing isn't about suppressing or ignoring those difficult emotions.
Right.
It's about acknowledging them,
Yeah.
processing them, and ultimately releasing them.
Right.
It's kind of like cleaning out a really cluttered room.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
You might not enjoy the process of sorting through everything, getting rid of things, but once it's done, you feel so much lighter, freer, more spacious. And the same applies to emotional healing.
It's creating space for something new.
Exactly.
So we've established that healing is this foundation,
Right.
that it's an emotional process.
Yeah.
But where do we even begin?
Right.
Well, Wiest gives us this roadmap with her 8 phases of deep personal transformation. And it starts with a catalytic event.
Yeah.
Something that kind of shakes us up.
Right. Shakes up our reality.
And then we move through these phases, like feeling all the feels, questioning your identity, embracing new narratives.
Yeah.
And eventually we reach a point where we're taking the leap toward this new version of ourselves.
Yeah.
What I find so interesting about this is that it's not linear.
No, it's not.
We might circle back, revisit old wounds.
Absolutely.
And that's all part of the process.
Yeah, it's part of the process.
So let's be honest.
Yeah.
There are times when we resist growth.
Oh, all the time.
Even when we know it's good for us.
Yeah.
And Wiest actually dedicates a whole chapter to this. 7 psychological biases that are making you resist your own growth.
Yeah.
It's like we sabotage ourselves without even realizing it.
Right.
She talks about things like becoming too comfortable with discomfort. I know I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
Or falling prey to the negativity bias where we just focus on the worst case scenario.
Right, that negativity bias.
It's powerful.
It is.
So of all those biases, which ones do you see people struggling with most?
I think one that comes up a lot is the sinking cost fallacy.
Okay.
We cling to things.
Yeah.
Jobs, relationships, even unhealthy habits.
Right.
Because we've invested so much time and energy. And, and even when they're no longer serving us, it's like we're throwing good money after bad just because we don't want to admit we made a mistake.
It's hard to let go.
It is.
Another one that she mentions is the external locus of control.
Yeah.
Where we believe that our lives are controlled by these external forces.
Right. Luck, fate, other people.
Yeah. And we don't take responsibility for our own choices.
Exactly.
It can be so disempowering.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
Because you feel like you're just at the mercy of circumstance.
Right.
Rather than being the architect of your own life.
And then there's that fear of making the wrong choice.
Oh, yeah.
I think that paralyzes a lot of people, myself included.
Yeah.
We overthink every decision, second guess ourselves, and ultimately just stay stuck because we're too afraid to take a leap of faith.
It's so true.
So how do we overcome these biases?
Well, I think awareness is the first step.
Okay.
Once we recognize those biases at play, we can start to challenge them.
Okay.
We can question those automatic thoughts, gather evidence to support or refute them, and then consciously choose a different course of action.
It's like we're taking back control. of our minds. And one of the things that I found really empowering about Wiest's work is this emphasis on letting go.
Oh, absolutely.
And she doesn't just mean letting go of big things like past traumas or toxic relationships.
Yeah.
She talks about letting go of those small things too. Unhelpful thoughts, outdated possessions, unrealistic expectations.
Right. There's little things that we cling to.
It's like a daily ritual of releasing anything that's no longer serving us.
You know what I find so insightful is how she describes letting go as a practice. Not a one-time event.
Yeah.
She says, letting go is as effortless as an exhale. You do it all the time.
I love that.
It's such a simple analogy, but it's so true.
Yeah.
You know, we exhale without even thinking about it.
Yeah, we do.
And in the same way, we can learn to release those thoughts, feelings, and attachments that are just cluttering our minds and hearts.
It's like decluttering our inner space.
Exactly.
As we would our physical environment. And by practicing letting go in those small moments,
we build that emotional muscle.
Absolutely we do.
To face the bigger challenges.
Yeah.
With more grace and resilience.
Right. And it creates space.
Yeah.
For new possibilities to emerge.
That brings us to a topic that I know a lot of people struggle with, which is finding the confidence to pursue their dreams.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Wiest has some incredible advice on this.
She does.
She challenges this belief that we need to wait until we feel confident before we take action.
Right, like we have to wait for that perfect moment.
Yeah, the stars have to align.
Yeah.
But she says, you don't need to find confidence to pursue what you really love. You just have to be willing to start.
Yeah, I love that.
It's like flipping the script.
It is.
On how we approach our dreams.
It's about understanding that confidence often comes as a byproduct of action.
Right.
You know, think about learning to ride a bike.
Okay.
You don't wait until you feel confident before you get on the bike.
You just get on.
You get on the bike, you wobble around a bit.
You maybe fall a few times, but eventually.
You get it.
You find your balance and you start to feel confident.
You start to feel that confidence.
Right. And the same applies to pursuing our dreams.
So true.
We need to be willing to take those first wobbly steps.
Yeah.
Knowing that with practice and persistence,
yeah,
we will gain the confidence we need.
We will. And I love how she emphasizes focusing on our own journey.
Yes.
Not comparing ourselves to others.
So important.
She writes, showing up is what makes your work worthwhile.
Right.
It's about consistency, authenticity.
Yeah.
Creating from a place of passion, not competition.
It is. And it's about recognizing that everybody's journey is unique.
Right.
We all have different starting points, different resources, different timelines, and comparing ourselves to others only serves to create self-doubt and discouragement.
Right.
It's so much more empowering to just focus on our own progress, celebrate our own wins, and keep moving forward at our own pace.
So I'm curious, what would you pursue if fear weren't a factor?
Ooh, that's a good question.
What dreams would you chase if you knew you couldn't fail?
You know, I think for me, it would be about really tapping into what lights me up, you know, what brings me joy and a sense of purpose.
Right.
And then having the courage to take those first steps, even when those voices of fear and self-doubt start to creep in.
Right, because they will.
They will. Oh, they will.
So we can't talk about healing without addressing heartbreak.
No, we can't.
It's one of the most universal experiences.
It is.
And it can be incredibly painful.
Yeah, heartbreak is tough.
But Wiest's chapter on how to get over someone offers a really insightful perspective.
Yeah, I think what's so helpful about her approach is how she frames heartbreak as a grieving process.
Right.
But it's not just grieving the loss of the person.
Right.
It's also grieving the loss of the potential future that we had envisioned with them.
Potential future, yeah.
It's a subtle but really important distinction.
It is, and I think it's so liberating to acknowledge that grief. You know, to give ourselves permission to feel the pain fully, to mourn the loss of what could have been. Right. And then once we've allowed ourselves to grieve, we can start to shift our focus to the present moment, to the possibilities that still exist, and to the future that we want to create.
It's about future self-work.
Yeah.
As Wiest describes it.
Future self-work.
Envisioning ourselves years down the line, happy.
Yeah.
And thriving and allowing that vision to guide us in the present.
And it's not about denying the pain of the present.
Right.
It's about cultivating a sense of hope for the future.
Yeah.
It's like we're creating this beacon of light to guide us through the darkness.
Yeah.
And speaking of light,
Yeah.
Wiest has this beautiful line that really resonated with me.
I love this one.
She says, if you ever feel lost, please remember that you can make a home within your own heart.
Beautiful.
It's such a powerful reminder that true belonging isn't something we find out there in the world. It's something we cultivate within ourselves.
It is.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's about recognizing that true security and stability come from within.
Right.
From cultivating a sense of self-acceptance and inner peace.
So it's about creating that sanctuary within ourselves.
Yes.
A place where we feel safe, loved, and whole.
Right. It's a journey.
It is a journey.
That starts with healing.
With healing, yeah.
With acknowledging those wounds, processing those emotions, and ultimately releasing them.
To make space.
To make space for something new and beautiful.
I love that.
It really is a powerful image, creating that inner sanctuary.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of another point that Wiest makes about recognizing the signs of progress along our healing journey, because it's so easy to get caught up in thinking that progress should look a certain way or that it should be linear and always feel good.
It's not always like that. It's not.
And so how do we kind of reframe that?
Well, Wiest points out that sometimes feeling like you've regressed or made mistakes is actually a sign that you're becoming more self-aware.
Okay.
That you're becoming more attuned to your true needs and values.
Right.
It's like you're peeling back those layers of conditioning and getting closer to the core of who you really are.
And that can be messy.
Oh, it can be.
And uncomfortable at times, right?
Yeah.
I think about those moments when old wounds resurface or when we react in ways that surprise even ourselves. It can be tempting to judge ourselves harshly.
Like it's so easy to do.
Those moments.
Yeah.
But what if instead of seeing those moments as setbacks, we viewed them as opportunities for deeper healing?
I love that reframe.
Yeah.
What if we saw them as evidence that we're doing the work, that we're committed to growth, even when it's challenging? It's like giving ourselves permission to be human.
Exactly.
Have those moments of imperfections and to learn from them rather than beating ourselves up.
Right. We're not striving for perfection. We're striving for progress.
And she talks about shifting our perspective, asking ourselves empowering questions.
Yes.
Like, what would my best self do today? Or what's the best thing that could happen to me today?
Love those questions.
It's about focusing on the possibilities rather than the limitations.
Right. And those questions can be so powerful in shaping our reality.
Yeah.
When we consciously choose to focus on the positive, on what we want to create, we open ourselves up to new opportunities and experiences that we might have otherwise missed.
It's like we're training our minds to look for the good.
Exactly.
To see the potential in every situation and to believe in our ability to create a brighter future.
And speaking of creating a positive future, Wiest has some powerful insights on what happens when life throws us a curveball. When things don't go according to plan.
Yeah, that happens.
It does. She says, when life gives you an opportunity to change, please don't let it pass you by.
I love that.
It's a reminder that sometimes what feels like a setback is actually a redirection.
Okay.
A chance to course correct.
Right.
And move towards something that's more aligned with our true purpose.
It's like we're being rerouted to a better destination.
Yeah, think about it like this. Imagine you're driving to a destination.
Okay.
And you encounter a detour. It might feel frustrating at first.
Yeah.
But what if that detour leads you to a more scenic route?
Right.
A hidden gem that you wouldn't have discovered otherwise.
I like that.
Sometimes those unexpected detours in life lead us to something even better than we could have imagined.
So it's trusting the journey.
It is.
Even when it takes us in directions that we didn't expect.
Yeah. And it reminds me of another piece of wisdom from Wiest. Remember how far you've come.
Oh, that's so important.
It is.
Because we often focus on what's still ahead.
Right. All the challenges.
Yet to be faced.
Yeah, we forget to acknowledge our own strength and resilience.
It's so important to celebrate those wins, both big and small.
Absolutely.
It's about recognizing that we've already overcome so much.
Right.
That we've learned and grown from those experiences, and that we have within us the capacity to navigate whatever lies ahead.
We do.
We've done it before, and we can do it again.
And this is where it gets really deep.
Okay.
Wiest has this fascinating chapter titled remember that everything will feel impossible right before a huge shift takes place.
Yeah, I love that chapter.
She talks about how that feeling of being stuck, of hitting a wall, is often a sign that we're on the verge of a major breakthrough.
Right. It's like the darkness before the dawn.
It is.
It's like the universe is testing our commitment.
You know, pushing us to dig deep and access a level of strength and determination that we didn't even know we had.
And it's in those moments of feeling completely lost that we often discover our true potential.
Yes. We realize that we are capable of so much more than we thought possible.
And sometimes finding that potential means facing our fears head on.
It does.
Wiest has a great chapter called, If You Don't Know What You Want in Life, Start With What You're Most Afraid Of.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
And she suggests asking ourselves, what's the opposite of that fear?
Right.
What's the best possible outcome for the thing that scares you the most?
I love that approach because it forces us to confront the things that we've been avoiding.
Right.
You know, the dreams that we've been holding back from pursuing because of fear or self-doubt.
It's so powerful.
It is.
Because it flips the script and it allows us to see the possibility instead of just the fear.
It's like we're taking back our power from fear and reclaiming our dreams.
And I love how she challenges this traditional notion of purpose. You know, like that idea that it has to be this grand singular thing that we spend our lives searching for.
The one thing.
The one thing.
Yeah.
She has this chapter called, Sometimes the Purpose Can Be So Subtle You Don't Realize You're Already Living It, where she suggests that purpose is often woven into the fabric of our everyday lives.
It's in the little things.
The little things, the small acts of kindness, the meaningful connections, the moments of joy and gratitude.
It's about finding purpose in the ordinary, rather than searching for it in some extraordinary achievement.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the meaning and significance in the seemingly mundane moments.
Yeah.
The connections we make.
Right.
The contributions we offer. The ways in which we show up for ourselves and others.
I love that.
You know, it's about shifting our focus from what we should be doing to what we're actually doing.
Yeah.
And recognizing the beauty and significance in the present moment.
It's about embracing the journey.
It is.
Even when we don't know where it's leading.
Right.
Now, we touched on letting go earlier, but I'd love to dive a little deeper into Wiest's perspective on how to start letting go, even when it feels impossible.
Yeah.
She talks about creating a new life that's so compelling, so fulfilling, that the past naturally fades away.
It's like the past loses its grip on us.
Right.
When we shift our focus and energy towards creating a present and future that we're excited about.
She has this powerful line. You let go when you build a new life, so immersive and engaging and exciting, you slowly over time forget about the past.
Right.
It's not about erasing the past.
Yeah.
It's about creating a present that's so vibrant and meaningful that the past no longer holds the same power over us.
Right. And it's not always about creating a new life.
Right.
Sometimes it's about letting go of attachments. You know, those things or people that we cling to for security or validation.
Yeah.
Even when they're no longer serving us.
Right.
Wiest talks about this in her chapter. There are 3 types of losses in our lives, and each teaches us something different.
Okay.
And she differentiates between the loss of a relationship, which we've already discussed, and the loss of an attachment, which can be something like a belief system, an identity, or even a material possession. It's the kind of loss that can leave us feeling unmoored, like we've lost a part of ourselves.
It can be really disorienting.
It can.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the rug's been pulled out from under us.
And it's often rooted in a need for security or validation. And the pain of that loss can be incredibly intense.
Yeah, it can feel like our whole world is falling apart.
It can.
But as with other forms of loss, Wiest sees these as opportunities for growth.
Yeah.
She writes that attachment loss can be a powerful catalyst for discovering our own inner strength and resilience.
Right. It forces us to confront our deepest fears and insecurities and to ultimately find a sense of wholeness and stability within ourselves.
So it's like we're being pushed to rely on our own inner resources.
Exactly.
Rather than those external sources of validation.
Right.
And then there's detachment loss, which is more about consciously choosing to let go of something or someone that's no longer serving us.
It's a deliberate act of self-preservation.
Okay.
And while it can still be painful, It's ultimately empowering.
It's like we're taking back our power.
Exactly.
Right.
We're making a choice that's in alignment with our highest good.
Right. And Winterist writes that detachment loss teaches us how to love ourselves first.
I love that.
It's about setting boundaries.
Right.
Prioritizing our own well-being and recognizing that we are not responsible for other people's happiness or fulfillment.
Right.
We can love and support them.
But we can't control their choices or force them to change.
It's such a powerful reminder.
It is.
That sometimes the most loving act is to let go.
Yeah, to create space for both ourselves and others.
Yeah.
To grow and evolve.
So we've talked about healing, facing our fears, letting go, finding purpose in the everyday.
Right.
But how do we bring all of this together?
That's a great question.
Right. How do we create a life that's so compelling, so aligned with our true purpose, that letting go becomes a natural byproduct?
Well, Wiest offers a really practical tool for doing just that.
Okay.
In her chapter, How to Write a Personal Mission Statement, because your vision can become your reality.
Okay.
She outlines a process for clarifying our values, aspirations, and goals.
Okay.
It's about getting clear on what matters most to us.
Right.
And then using that clarity to guide our actions and decisions.
She suggests asking ourselves questions like, what work do you want to do each day? Or how do you want to be remembered?
It's about painting a picture of your ideal life.
Right.
Not just in terms of external achievements,
Right.
but also in terms of how you want to feel and who you want to be.
So it's about creating this roadmap
Exactly.
for our lives, a compass to guide us in the direction of our dreams.
And remember, this mission statement isn't set in stone.
Okay.
It can evolve and change as we do.
Right.
It's simply a tool to help us stay focused on what matters most and to make choices that are aligned with our vision for our lives.
It's like a living document.
It is.
That we can revisit and revise.
Absolutely, as we grow and evolve.
And speaking of growth and evolution, Wiest has this really beautiful chapter titled, You're Not Going to Realize You're Blossoming, but It's Going to Happen. Anyway.
I love that title.
It speaks to the often subtle nature of personal growth, how we might not even recognize the changes happening within us until we look back and realize how far we've come.
She writes, you're going to blossom anyway, because that's what you were designed to do.
I love that.
It's like there's this innate drive within us to grow and evolve.
Yeah.
Even when we resist it or try to hold ourselves back.
It's a beautiful reminder to trust the process.
It is.
Even when we don't see the immediate results.
Absolutely.
But even as we're blossoming, we might encounter thought patterns that hold us back. Those limiting beliefs that whisper doubts and fears in our ears. Wiest dedicates a whole chapter to this, titled 7 Thought Patterns That Are Keeping You Stuck in a Life You Don't Want. She talks about things like negativity bias, that tendency to focus on the negative.
Always looking for what's wrong.
And the belief that life is hard and we should expect to suffer.
Like suffering is just part of the deal. But it doesn't have to be.
One thought pattern that really resonated with me was this idea that we can only earn a life we love
by doing things we hate.
Right. Like happiness has to be earned through struggle and sacrifice.
It's
like we're not allowed to enjoy the journey. We have to suffer to deserve the reward.
But what if we challenge that belief? What if we gave ourselves permission to pursue work that we love? To create a life that feels joyful and fulfilling?
I love that.
What if we believe that we're worthy of experiencing abundance and happiness right now?
Yes. In this moment.
Not just in some distant future.
It's about reclaiming our right to joy.
Yes. And speaking of reclaiming our power, Wiest also challenges this belief. That we are responsible for every problem in our proximity.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
This is a big one.
Especially for those of us who are naturally empathetic and caring. It's so easy to fall into the trap of trying to fix everyone else's problem.
We want to help.
We do.
While neglecting our own needs and boundaries.
And, as Wiest points out, we can't pour from an empty cup.
We need to prioritize our own well-being, fill our own cups first. So that we have something to offer others.
So it's about recognizing the difference between taking responsibility for our own actions and taking on the emotional burden of everyone around us.
It's a subtle but important distinction.
It is. And it's about learning to set healthy boundaries and to prioritize our own well-being and recognizing that we can't force others to change or to make choices that are in their best interest.
We can offer support and love, but ultimately, each person is responsible for their own journey.
We can't control other people.
We can't.
It's about releasing that guilt that we often feel for wanting an abundant life in a world filled with suffering.
It's like we're afraid to experience joy or success.
Yeah.
Because we feel like we don't deserve it.
No.
Or that it's somehow wrong to feel happy when so many others are struggling.
But our happiness is not a threat.
No, it's not.
To others.
In fact, when we allow ourselves to thrive, we actually contribute to a more positive and abundant world.
Right.
Our joy can be contagious.
It can.
Inspiring others to seek their own happiness.
I love that.
And that brings us to another limiting belief.
Okay.
That Wiest challenges. That we need to be successful or beautiful to be loved.
Oh, that's a big one.
It's a message that's so deeply ingrained in our culture.
It is.
But it's also incredibly limiting and damaging to our self-esteem.
It sets us up to always be seeking validation.
Yes.
From external sources.
From outside of ourselves.
Right.
Rather than finding it within.
And the truth is we're all worthy of love and belonging.
Absolutely.
Just as we are imperfections. And
it's about recognizing that our worthiness is not dependent.
Right.
On external validation, on achieving certain standards of beauty or success.
It's about embracing our imperfections.
It is.
Loving ourselves unconditionally and knowing that we are worthy of love and belonging.
Right here, right now.
Just as we are.
It's a journey of self-acceptance and self-love.
It is. And sometimes that journey involves letting go of relationships that no longer serve us.
Right. Relationships that are based on conditional love.
Right.
Or that reinforce those limiting beliefs.
And that can be really hard.
It can be. But as Wiest so aptly puts it, you can't lose relationships. You can only outgrow them.
I love that.
It's about recognizing that relationships are not meant to last forever.
Right.
That sometimes people come into our lives for a season, a reason, or a lifetime.
And that letting go of a relationship that's no longer serving us is not a failure.
No.
It's an act of self-love.
It is.
No.
And, it can be incredibly liberating.
Yeah.
To release those relationships that are no longer aligned with who we are and who we're becoming.
It creates space. For new connections and experiences.
Right. New relationships that are based on mutual respect, support, and unconditional love.
And sometimes those endings, those moments of letting go can be the most profound teachers. They can, relationships end when they are meant to end. They are over when they need to be over.
Right. It's about trusting that even though it might feel painful in the moment, there's a deeper purpose unfolding.
Right.
And that by letting go, we
Yeah.
create space for new connections and experiences to enter our lives.
So we've talked about the importance of letting go of relationships that no longer serve us. But what about those challenging emotions that we inevitably encounter in life?
Right. Those are going to come up.
They are.
No matter what.
How do we build our emotional resilience so that we can navigate those ups and downs with more grace and strength?
Well, we offered some really practical advice in our Chapter 7, Ways to Become Your Most Emotionally Resilient Self.
Okay.
And one of the key takeaways that resonates with me is the importance of reframing our perspective. It's about choosing to focus on the positive.
Right.
Even when things feel challenging.
It's like choosing to look at the glass half full.
Exactly.
Rather than half empty.
Rather than focusing on what's wrong.
And it reminds me of that saying, what you resist persists.
Oh, that's so true.
Right. When we resist our emotions, they tend to intensify.
Yeah, they do.
But when we acknowledge them, allow ourselves to feel them fully, and then choose how we want to respond, we regain a sense of agency and power.
Exactly. It's not about suppressing or denying our emotions.
Right.
But rather about choosing how we want to engage with them.
Right.
And it's about recognizing that we have a choice in how we respond to those emotions.
Right.
We don't have to be ruled by them.
No.
We can choose to respond with kindness, compassion, and understanding.
Right.
Both toward ourselves and towards others.
And speaking of kindness and compassion, Wiest also emphasizes the importance of self-care.
Yes, self-care is crucial.
Yes.
It's about recognizing that we can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
And that by taking care of ourselves, we create a foundation for greater resilience and inner peace.
What are some of the self-care practices that you find most helpful?
Well, for me, it's about creating a daily routine
Okay.
that nourishes my mind, body, and soul. It's about getting enough sleep, eating nourishing food,
Right.
moving my body in ways that feel good,
Yeah.
spending time in nature, connecting with loved ones, and engaging in activities that bring me joy.
It's about making time for yourself,
It is.
even when life feels busy and chaotic.
Yes, even when it feels like there's no time.
It's recognizing that self-care is not a luxury.
It's not.
It's a necessity.
It's an investment in our well-being.
Right.
And it's one of the most powerful ways we can build our emotional resilience.
And it doesn't have to be complicated.
No, it doesn't.
Right.
It can be as simple as taking a few deep breaths, listening to your favorite song, or taking a walk in nature.
It's about finding those small ways
Yes.
to nourish yourself throughout the day.
Exactly.
One of my favorite insights from Wiest's work
Okay.
is her chapter, Trust That Your Heart Knows the Truth, even if your mind cannot make sense of it.
No, that's a good one.
It's such a powerful reminder
Yeah.
that we have this inner compass and intuition
Yeah,
that often guides us toward our truest path,
it does.
even when it doesn't make logical sense.
Right. Sometimes our minds get in the way.
They do.
You know, they overthink things and they create all these doubts and fears.
Right.
But our hearts often know the truth.
She writes, your heart goes slowly. It does not act impulsively or irrationally or with anger. The heart shows you what is true through the feelings that do not fade.
I love that.
It's about learning to discern between those fleeting emotions that come and go and the deeper, more enduring feelings that guide us toward our truest desires.
And, sometimes trusting our hearts
Yeah.
means taking a leap of faith,
It does.
even when we're afraid.
Wiest has this incredible chapter titled, Read This If You're on the Brink of a Breakthrough, but are afraid to take the leap.
Oh, I love that chapter.
It's like a pep talk for the soul.
It is.
She reminds us that this is what all the inner work, all the healing and letting go has been preparing us for.
It's about trusting that we're ready,
We are.
even when our minds tell us otherwise.
And she writes, this is the leap that the beginning of the process was preparing you for. This was the dream that was hiding deep within you, the one that was nudging you to let go of what you had before, to address the feelings that were blocking your vision and your flow, and the one that is finally ready to become reality.
Powerful.
It is powerful.
Yeah?
So speaking of stepping into our power,
Okay.
let's talk about emotional intelligence.
Love it.
Wiest dedicates a chapter to this. 16 ways emotionally intelligent people interpret negative feelings differently.
And she offers some really valuable insights
Yeah.
on how to transform those challenging emotions into opportunities for growth and self-awareness.
You know, one thing that she emphasizes
Yeah.
is the importance of recognizing our feelings as messengers.
Okay.
Signals that something needs our attention.
Right. Expert.
Right. It's not about ignoring them or pushing them away. It's about understanding what they're trying to tell us.
Okay.
What are we needing? What boundaries need to be set? What changes do we need to make?
One insight that really stood out to me was her statement, my feelings are messengers, but I don't have to act on every one of them.
Oh, that's so important.
It is.
Because we often feel like we have to react to every feeling that comes up, but we
don't. It's about recognizing that we have a choice
Yes, we do.
in how we respond
Right.
to our emotions.
Yeah, it's about becoming the master of our emotions.
Right. Rather than being enslaved by them.
And it's about understanding that all emotions are valid,
Absolutely.
even the unpleasant ones.
Even the messy ones.
And the messy ones, yeah. Wiest encourages us to trace our feelings back to their origin, to understand those underlying beliefs and experiences that shape our emotional responses.
It's like we're becoming emotional detectives.
Right.
Uncovering the root cause
Of our reactions.
yeah.
Wiest also challenges this belief that we need to feel good all the time.
Oh, that's a big one.
She writes, we can better assimilate ourselves to emotional health by allowing ourselves to lay down, cry it out, vent, and embrace the low tides when they come, knowing the dawn will always rise.
It's about recognizing that life is not always sunshine and rainbows,
No, it's not.
that there will be storms and challenges along the way,
And that we have the strength to weather those storms.
and that the sun will always rise again. Even after the darkest night, there will be a new dawn.
I love that.
And it's about finding the beauty and the lessons in those darker moments, knowing that they're often the catalysts for our greatest growth and transformation.
And speaking of growth and transformation,
Yeah.
Wiest encourages us to define success on our own terms,
Right.
rather than by society's standards.
It's about recognizing that true success is not measured by external achievements,
Right.
but by how we feel about ourselves and our lives.
It's about living in alignment with our values,
It is.
pursuing our passions,
Yeah.
creating a life that feels authentic and meaningful.
It's about finding that sweet spot where our passions and talents intersect with the needs of the world.
I love that.
You know, it's about doing work that feels purposeful and fulfilling, work that lights us up from the inside out.
And recognizing that success is not a destination.
Right.
It's a journey.
It's a journey. Yeah.
It's about enjoying the process, the ups and downs, the challenges and the triumphs.
Yeah. Celebrating our wins, learning from our mistakes, and never giving up on our dreams.
And speaking of dreams,
Okay.
Wiest has this powerful message about embracing our true selves,
Yes.
even when it feels scary or uncomfortable.
Right, because it will.
She writes, "I am entitled to my own idea of myself."
Powerful.
So powerful, right?
Yeah.
Because we often get so caught up in trying to please others.
Right, to meet their expectations.
Yeah.
That we lose sight of who we truly are.
Yeah.
What we truly want.
She encourages us to create a self-perception that is more accurate to your honest experience of yourself, and to let go of that need to please or impress others.
It's about stripping away those layers of conditioning,
Yes.
those masks that we wear to protect ourselves from judgment or rejection.
Yeah.
And revealing our authentic selves to the world.
It can be scary,
It can.
but it's also so liberating.
It is. It really is. You know, it's about recognizing that true belonging and connection come from embracing our authenticity,
Right.
from showing up as our true selves,
Yeah.
even when it feels vulnerable.
And knowing that we are enough
Yes,
just as we are.
right here, right now.
And that brings us to another practical tool
Okay.
that Wiest offers for living a more fulfilling life. In her chapter 9, questions that will help you make the most of every day. She encourages us to start each day
Yeah.
by asking ourselves these empowering questions,
Right.
questions that help us focus on what matters most
Yeah.
and that guide us toward our goals and aspirations.
It's like creating a daily ritual of intention setting,
Right.
of reminding ourselves what's important and what we want to create.
And by asking ourselves these questions every day,
Yeah.
we train our minds
We do.
to look for the positive.
Right. To focus on what's working
Yeah.
and to make choices that are aligned with our values.
One question that really stood out to me
Okay.
was, what would my best self do today?
Oh, that's a great one.
It is. It's like we're calling forth
Yes.
the best version of ourselves, that wise and compassionate part of us
Yeah.
that knows what's truly best.
It's about recognizing that we have a choice in every moment.
We do,
You know, we can choose to react from fear, anger, or resentment,
right?
or we can choose to respond from a place of love, compassion, and understanding.
And she encourages us to ask, what's the best thing that could happen to me today?
I love that.
It's about focusing on possibility, inviting joy and abundance into our lives.
It's about believing that good things are possible,
Yeah.
that miracles can happen,
Right.
and that we're worthy of experiencing joy and abundance.
It's about shifting our perspective.
It is.
From scarcity to abundance,
Yeah.
fear to love, limitation to possibility.
It's about recognizing that we already have so much to be grateful for,
Right.
and that by focusing on those good things, we attract more of them into our lives.
She reminds us that growth happens incrementally by asking, what can I do better today than yesterday?
Small, consistent efforts.
Small, consistent efforts
Yeah.
can lead to big changes over time.
They can.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Right. And it's about celebrating our wins along the way.
It's about being patient with ourselves
It is.
and trusting that we're exactly where we need to be.
Right. You know, growth is a journey,
It is.
not a destination.
It's about embracing those ups and downs,
Oh, absolutely.
the twists and turns.
Yeah, and knowing that with each experience, we are learning, growing, and becoming more of who we're meant to be.
Now, she also encourages us to focus on our relationships
Okay.
by asking, who is the most important person or people in my life?
Yeah.
And what am I doing for them today?
Love that.
It's about making time.
It is.
for the people who matter most, nurturing those connections, expressing our love and appreciation.
Right. And it's about recognizing that relationships are a two-way street.
They are.
It's about giving and receiving, supporting and being supported, loving and being loved.
She also encourages us to embrace new experiences by asking, what's something new I can try today?
Ooh, I love that question.
Right. It's about stepping outside of our comfort zones.
It is.
Expanding our horizons, inviting novelty and excitement into our lives.
It's about recognizing that growth often happens outside of our comfort zone.
And by embracing new experiences, we challenge ourselves to learn and grow and expand our perspective.
And it's about recognizing that life is meant to be an adventure.
Yes.
A journey of discovery and exploration.
And finally, she reminds us to be present in the moment by asking, what am I grateful for today? And what am I looking forward to today?
I love those questions.
Right. It's about shifting our focus from dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. And instead, appreciating the beauty and abundance that's already present in our lives.
It's about savoring those small moments of joy, expressing gratitude for the good things in our lives. And cultivating a sense of hope and excitement for the future.
And speaking of gratitude, let's talk about the importance of self-compassion.
I love this topic.
Wiest has a really insightful chapter titled, "This is what it really means to be kind to yourself, because it's not as easy as you think."
Yeah, and she challenges that notion that kindness is always about being nice.
Right.
Or avoiding discomfort.
She writes, "True kindness is a fire that wakes you in the night. It's a calling that you can't ignore. It's tough love. It's seeing reality for what it is. It is acceptance. It is choice. It is reclamation."
And it's about being honest with ourselves. Even when it's uncomfortable.
Right.
And about making choices that align with our highest good, even when they're difficult.
It's about being our own best friend.
Yes.
Our own biggest cheerleader. And our own most compassionate advocate.
It's about recognizing that we are worthy of love, kindness, and forgiveness.
Yes.
Even when we make mistakes.
She writes, "Kindness is loving ourselves enough to do that. It is believing in our potential enough to choose better. It is caring enough about ourselves that we decide we're going to stop accepting a life that's less than what we deserve. It is fighting for who we are and who we might one day be."
Powerful.
And sometimes being kind to ourselves means letting go of the need for perfection.
Right, that's a big one.
Wiest has a great chapter on this titled, "We Crave Perfection Because We Want to Feel Safe." And she talks about how our desire for perfection is often rooted in a fear of judgment or rejection.
Right.
A need to control how others perceive us.
She writes, "The truth about perfection is that we only want it so that others might not hurt us for the lack of it."
It's about recognizing that our worthiness is not dependent on being perfect.
Right.
And that by embracing our imperfections, we actually become more authentic and lovable.
We do. We really do.
It's about recognizing that our imperfections are what make us unique, what make us interesting, what make us human.
It's about embracing our quirks, our flaws, and our vulnerabilities. Knowing that they're all part of what makes us beautiful and whole.
So how do we know if we're overcorrecting our lives?
Right.
Trying to fix things that aren't broken.
That's a good question.
Right. It can be tricky.
It can.
To find that balance between addressing areas that genuinely need improvement and overthinking things that are perfectly fine as they are.
Wiest points out that overcorrecting often stems from a need for control. A fear of making mistakes or a belief that we're not good enough as we are.
And we get caught in this cycle of constantly striving for this elusive ideal, never feeling quite satisfied.
Never feeling like we've arrived.
She writes, "Overcorrecting occurs because we do not have a concept of what is enough for us."
Right.
It's recognizing that our worthiness is not dependent.
No, it's not.
On achieving certain standards or meeting other people's expectations.
You're inherently worthy.
Yes.
Just as we are.
She offers some signs that we might be overcorrecting.
Okay.
Like being preoccupied with a problem that nobody else seems to think is a big deal.
Right. Or feeling ashamed.
Yeah.
And self-isolating until we fix the problem.
It's about learning to trust.
It is.
Our own judgment. To set healthy boundaries and to let go of that need to please or impress others.
And she reminds us that true change
Right.
comes from a place of self-respect, not from a place of fear or insecurity.
It's about making choices that feel good to us,
Yes.
rather than choices that are driven by a need to prove ourselves.
Right, or to gain approval from others.
I want to bring up one of the most powerful chapters in the
Okay.
book. You already know what your next step is. You just have to find the courage to take it.
Oh, I love that chapter.
It's so simple.
It is.
That's so profound.
It is, and she writes, maybe you don't need to find more answers. Maybe you don't need to do more soul searching. Maybe you don't need more clarity. Maybe what you really need is the courage to continue, even though the path is no longer new and exciting.
Right, because we do often know what we need to do,
You do.
but fear or self-doubt hold us back.
Yeah.
And it's about recognizing that growth and transformation are ongoing journeys. And sometimes the most courageous act is simply to keep going,
Yes,
even when it feels challenging or uncertain.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And she encourages us to embrace the monotony and routine,
Okay.
to trust that even when things feel mundane, there's a deeper purpose unfolding.
I think about it like this. A seed planted in the ground doesn't sprout overnight.
It doesn't.
There's this period of quiet growth happening beneath the surface before it breaks through the soil. It's a process.
She writes, there is no point at which you are supposed to be completed. The only finish point is death.
That's deep.
It is.
But it's also so true.
It is.
Life is about constant growth and evolution.
It's about the journey,
It is.
not the destination.
Right. And by embracing the journey, we open ourselves up to a world of possibility.
Before we wrap up,
Okay.
I want to share one last passage from Wiest that I think beautifully captures the essence
Okay.
of healing and transformation. She writes, as we start to recognize this power, we begin to trust it more. As we start to trust it more, we begin to follow it more closely. We have greater stretches of feeling ease and love. Our lives begin to come back into harmony through our new, grounded, centered perspective. We realize that we were never really lost. We were just giving ourselves some space to process before we could move forward completely.
I love that.
Right. It's such a beautiful reminder
It is.
that we have this innate wisdom and resilience within us, this power that's always guiding us.
Toward wholeness and healing.
It's about trusting that we're not broken or flawed, but rather perfectly imperfect beings
Yes.
on a journey of self-discovery.
It's been a pleasure diving deep into Brianna Wiest's work with you today.
Yeah, me too. It's been a great conversation.
I hope you found these insights as inspiring and empowering as I have. Remember, you have within you everything you need to create a life that feels aligned, joyful, and purposeful.
You do.
Trust your heart, listen to your intuition, and keep taking those brave steps forward.
Keep going.
You've got this.